Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Greetings, salutations, and welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. JACALYN KERBECK, and our show today is the Listening Mentor. Our topic is feeling guilty over self-care when caring for a loved one. And if you've ever been a caregiver or you've ever taken care of someone, you know that you feel that pressure almost to be all in and to focus on the other person. And if you go to do something for yourself, you might not feel quite right with it. So we've got an expert with us, the star of our show. She's back. She's the Harley Street stress expert. Let's welcome Caroline Heward to the program. Hello.
Hello. Lovely to be back.
Nice to have you. And for people who are just wondering when they can find you here, you're here the first and last Friday of each month.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Tell us a little bit about the work that you do as a certified therapist / stress expert, Caroline.
Well, I help people with all manner of problems. So whatever is essentially stressing you out. So if it's physical pain, aching back, neck pain, headaches, sleep problems, or relationship issues, the more behavioral side of things, anger management. So it's really whatever you're complaining about. Some people say, I'm not stressed, but it's actually what you're complaining about is causing your stress. And if you're not sleeping or you're waking up in the middle of the night or waking up feeling tired, that means you're not sleeping. And I help you identify root cause. And it's a very, very simple process which alleviates the stress and gives you a completely restful and peaceful night's sleep. And it doesn't matter what you do for a living, we all are suffering some level of stress in our times. So reach out, and I'm very happy to offer a free Zoom, telephone, or Skype consultation to literally bust your stress.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that offer for our audience. We definitely appreciate it. So, Caroline, as you know, and we know around the world that people are living longer, and also as a result of the pandemic, different generations of families have been living together, and there might be younger person taking care of a parent, or a parent taking care of their parent, or grandparents taking care of the grandchildren. There's all different types of scenarios. And whether we realize it or not, sometimes we spend so much time thinking about, worrying about, being concerned about someone else that we lose track of taking care of ourselves. What are your thoughts on this?
Yes, it's very easy to get caught up in the caring role and being the martyr almost for some people, that they will be focused on the other person and forget themselves. And when you're forgetting yourself because the other person becomes more important, times for their medication, times for their appointments, their doctors, hospital appointments, and just times to look after them in terms of their self-care. And it's very easy to forget because you go into what I would call the hamster wheel, and you kind of keep going and don't even realize it until you get to the point that it's overwhelm or even burnout. And it's very easy to get into. And my invitation, my advice is to step into a place of awareness. Just notice what it's like for you, how you're feeling at the end of your day, and take a moment take a breath, and take some space to take care of you.
I love that. And what does taking care of ourselves actually look like? Does it mean, hey, I'm going to go away for 2 weeks and whatever happens while I'm gone to bed?
Well, unfortunately, it doesn't sort of mean that for most people. For most people, it means having a break in terms of having lunch out or dinner out with friends, family, but taking some space and some social time for you, even if it's when you do your shopping, taking a coffee break and sitting down and having a cake and a coffee, but, you know, some space for you to be you, you know, space for you to downtime and be yourself rather than being on the treadmill. And it could even be taking space out for a pampering session, you know, or taking extra time in the bathroom, you know, just to look after yourself. It could be that you take a break by going outside and taking in the fresh air and taking a walk in nature. You know, it's whatever is right for you. You know, for me, I like to dance, you know, so I take a break and I dance, you know, or I meditate. Last night I did 2.5 hours meditation, and they were in America, and that was my taking a break out of my day, my week, and I felt amazing, so amazing that I worked all night. You know, I did stuff during the night because I was so lively, and that's what it can do. It can energize you, and then you feel much more equipped to take care of the other person that you're caring for.
I love that you're sharing this. And as something that comes to mind is that when we take a break, we may be concerned what others are going to think. Oh, well, your role is to do this. You're supposed to be there doing that. You're supposed to be watching her, him, them. How could you be out doing something else? Who's watching them when you're not there?
Yes, and this is very challenging, especially in a family role. And when you're the one that is the caregiver and the one that has the expectation loaded on you from yourself, from the person you're caring for, and others within your family. And it's not an easy balance, because the person that's doing the general care on a day-to-day basis for their parent or a sibling, or, you know, whoever they're looking after on a daily basis, it can be very, very challenging. And sometimes it's important to know what your limits are, know what your thresholds are, and find a way to take the moments and the space that you need, that you require to recharge, to do the things that are important to you, and seek help, external help, bring other people into the equation, so that gives you respite from having to handle the situation and the caring role on a 24/7, 7 days a week, every month, every year, because it can get very, very soul destroying. So it's important to find ways to bring in other people, even if it's external carers, to bring them in so that it gives you some respite. And the only person that's going to give you permission to do that is you.
Yeah, you have to be empowered and realize that if you don't take care of yourself, you can't be there to take care of someone else.
Absolutely. You know, there's a cliche that I'd like to share. That is, when you're on a flight and they're doing the announcements, the safety announcements, one of the things they say is, if you're looking after somebody on the flight, an elderly person or a young child, they say if there's a problem and the air pressure drops, the masks will drop down. It is important to put your mask on first, and then the person that you're looking after put theirs on afterwards. And I always think that's a real reality check, because if we put the other person's on first, we might not survive. And then what happens to the person? You know, they're left isolated and not getting the help that they need. So it's you first. It's filling your cup up first. and then looking after the other person. Otherwise, you'll be not there, and that's the important part of their care.
So true. And what about joining an organization like a support group, or maybe starting one on your own? Are you an advocate for this?
Absolutely. There's lots of organizations that you can reach out to. And, even if it's just that conversation, just to share how you're feeling, to another person. It's sometimes easier for people to share their challenges with someone that they don't know, a stranger, a voice on the end of the phone. And it's also important to feel that you're not alone. And when you share it either with a family member, a friend, or if you reach out to an organization, or as you say, even start one of these self-help groups, some of the best organizations have started because the person that created them was seeking a need for themselves. They had a need, and so they reached out and created an organization that helped others. And it's solving a problem. And when we are looking to solve a problem, we will find others that may have solved that problem prior to us. Or if there isn't, then there's an opportunity for us ourselves to solve a problem for not only ourselves, but for others as well.
Yes, absolutely. I know I've been leading a support group since 2019, I think, for the Crohn's Colitis Foundation. And we were meeting in person for the first couple of years. Then the pandemic hit. Actually, I was leading two support groups, one in the state of New Jersey, one in the state of Pennsylvania in the States. And I remember in the beginning that I would be really upset if we didn't have a certain number of people. I was thinking maybe 50 people are going to show up, and you might have 10 people, you might have 8 people. And now that we're online, there might be one person or two people. But what I found is, let's say it's just one person. That one person showed up for a reason. They really need someone to talk to, and I need someone to talk to. So it makes perfect sense. So I would just encourage anybody out there. It's not a difficult thing to do. It is a commitment, obviously. And it is something where it needs to be a safe space for people to share, but it can be very rewarding, and it can actually change someone's life.
I couldn't agree with you more. There is a phrase, problem shared is a problem halved. And if you share what's going on and what's not working, it kind of comes out of your head and it's voiced. It somehow doesn't feel or sound as bad as what you think it is. It's because there's no sharing, and so it's all running around, all the thoughts are running around in your mind, and there isn't any way to let it out. And if you simply shared what's going on, once it's out, it just seems to settle and relax the mind, the body, and it's almost like that's gone now. And it's only because you voiced it. It's quite an incredible experience when you share and literally just talk through your problems to someone that's open to listen and also has a understanding because they've been or are in the same position and having the same challenges.
Yes, I think it's just knowing that you're not alone. And something else that maybe you've experienced this. I know you work with many people who have problems sleeping, but I know when there have been times when I had difficulty sleeping, it's dark, the blinds are drawn, and it seems like the situation is the worst possible thing in the entire world. There's no end to it, or you're never going to get through it. And then in the morning, you leave your room, you go outside and you look and the sun's out and you hear birds and you think, I can't believe I was up all night thinking about that.
Well, that's a very interesting thing that you've mentioned there. And that is because during the daytime, we have a heavy distraction mechanism. There's lots to do, lots to get on with. And at nighttime, there isn't that distraction going on. We're not focused on doing this, that, and the other. And so when we're in bed alone, that's when we've got no escape, because we're there left with all of our thoughts. There's no distraction mechanism because you're lying down in bed. And so that's where it can become overwhelming and very challenging. it probably wouldn't surprise you that I have had calls at all sorts of ridiculous o'clock times of the night, because that's when people wake up feeling anxious and stressed. And I'm quite careful now that I don't answer, I allow myself to sleep. If I'm awake, that's okay. But, it's important for me to sleep and not be interrupted, wake up when somebody else is having that anxiety experience. And at the same time, that's when we would feel it the most, because there is no distraction mechanisms, no things that we're doing to distract us from the challenges and the thoughts in the mind.
It's so true. I remember many, many decades ago, well, not that many, but I did just turn 60, when I would go to see a therapist, and there's that feeling of when the time is coming to an end, it's 10 minutes before the hour. It's just like, oh no, please don't leave me. And then you leave there and you have this sense of desperation, of panic. And I think that's why people call in the middle of the night, because they become so attached to their therapist or to the counselor, because that person has the ability to make them realize that everything's temporary, or they feel a sense of calm by working with the person. And yet what we have to learn is how to find that calm in ourselves without depending on someone, because we can't depend on someone. You can't be giving therapy to somebody every single day for the rest of their lives. I mean, you could, but I don't know that they could afford it. So
sometimes people do take advantage of the free consultation, and they have such a great time that they call back again looking for more of a free consultation. And I say, well, I'm happy to help, I'm not a charity, I do need paying for what I do. But it's quite interesting how some people will reach out because they've had value, because they've genuinely been helped and they've felt more peaceful, and they will reach out again. It's kind of quite funny, and it's a backhanded compliment in a way that they feel that they can reach out because they feel so comfortable to do that. Obviously I do one free consultation, and then after that, then if there's a need, then we would look at a program of sessions.
Yes. And I think also that in today's world, we expect if we get something from someone that there's value to that, and that value needs to be recognized. I also think we all have value and should be paid for that value. So for people out there thinking, oh, I'm just going to call Caroline every day. No, you're not. You're going to book it for a proper appointment, right?
I did have a banker once that called me 3 times a week during the course of a 6-month period, always really anxious around 2 o'clock. I called it my 2 o'clock appointment, and never paid me. And I got to the point that I just said, you know what, I'm really happy to help you. There's got to be a point that you actually pay me, because this is silly. And then he stopped calling. And it was just really interesting. And that was more about my value. What value did I place on what I was doing? And when I said, well, it's important to have that exchange of value. But some people don't value their health in the same way until they need something, that they don't feel that there's a price on it. It's very interesting. Well, that person's probably spending a lot of money on holidays, on going out, wining and dining, on things, but not actually looking at their health.
Yes, I don't know what they're thinking, but what I'm thinking is that we have an opportunity to give back, to be of service, to be in service. And yet at the same time, we have a value to that service. And there is a certain amount of work that we do for charity. Some of us, not everyone does charitable work. And then there's an amount of work that we need to keep the lights on, and we need to keep our education going, or keep our maintenance of ourselves physically, mentally. And there's a cost to that. There's a certain energy that comes with that. So I always find it interesting when there are people who just consistently want to call you up in the middle of the night and ask for your service and not expect to pay for it. They wake you up in the middle of the night. They're going to dump all their stuff on you. Then you're supposed to try to go back to sleep, and then they don't want to pay you. That's, I don't know. There's a lot behind the scenes there I think we could unpack.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I love doing these shows, because it's then, you know, me on tap without me being on tap, so to speak, physically. You know, people can get me, you know, during the middle of the night by checking out one of these videos. And now there's a myriad of videos. There's a lot of videos that I've done in USA Global TV and Radio. So I feel that this is now leaving more of a legacy of me to help people when I'm sleeping and they are needing help.
Yes, I definitely agree, because that's what we do. We provide education, inspiration, and hope. And the thing with the internet is that it's there for the foreseeable future, and you can put in certain keywords, search words, and these videos come up, or you can go directly to our platform, USA Global TV and Radio, on YouTube or our website. You can watch it there as well. Caroline, I'd love to, when we think about our subject, feeling guilty over self-care, what is the meaning of the word guilt? How would you define it?
Oh, guilt. Well, guilt is the saboteur of the sacral chakra. That's the second chakra. And that resides in the belly, below the belly button. So it's around just under the belly button, and the back of the sacral chakra is where the buttocks are. So, and this is about your relationship with self. And it's also because the first relationship is the self, and then how you're interacting and interrelating with everything and everyone around you. So we're in a relationship with everything and everyone around us, even if it's a bus conductor, or even if it's somebody managing a train, a guard, or if it's somebody in a supermarket, you know. So we're in a relationship and interrelating with everything and everyone. And so when we're not managing ourselves in terms of that expression of there's an imbalance, then the saboteur of the sacral chakra is guilt. And so this is where life will become very difficult, that life will become as if you're working all the time. This chakra is all about spontaneity, laughter, your childlikeness. It's your desire, your movement towards things that you enjoy doing. It's, you know, sort of your fun, and it's where you move forward in everything that you want to do in terms of your joy and your relationship with self. And so the guilt is essentially taking all of that joy away. And so it's a very, very interesting concept, because we can feel guilty about eating something that's been, you know, sort of overloaded with calories. We can be guilty about having too much fun. We can be feeling guilty about being in a relationship that doesn't work, or it really works. You know, there's all sorts of reasons and rationale for feeling guilt. You know, there's even survivor's guilt when there's been an accident and you've survived a plane crash or a train crash, or, you know, so there's such a thing known as survivor's guilt. And so it's like a sabotaging mechanism so that you don't enjoy life.
Caroline, I want to just ask a follow-up question to that. Are there any, and if so, what are they, benefits or value that comes from guilt?
Yes and no. You know, we're human. We are having a human experience here. And to feel guilt, shame, as well as compassion, love, and joy, and gratitude, and fear, and survival, you know, all of these things are interchangeable. The saboteur of each of the chakras is the negative, the dark side of that particular chakra. So when you're feeling guilt, you're actually taking away your joy. And so it isn't great. And at the same time, we are here to have a human and an emotional experience. That's why we're here in this human physical body. And it's our humanness to feel these things, to experience these types of challenges, so that we can move through, grow, learn, organize, and get some wisdom from the experiences that we're experiencing, so that we can actually become more of the person that we were meant to be, that we were truly meant to be, without all of those afflictions. So it's, even the monks have guilt and shame and fear, because this is what we're working with. But what's not good is if we keep experiencing and going around the same loop of feeling guilty about the same thing. That's when you've never really learned the lesson. So yes, it has its upsides, because when you move through that challenge, you actually move into a space of growth, not only physically, emotionally, mentally, behaviorally as well.
It's really interesting, Caroline, because I'm thinking of you and your work as a therapist, and I'm sure you hear all kinds of stories across your career. People have done things, the reason why they've done them. And I think what I'm trying to figure out, we've had a number of shows talking about opposites, for example, war and peace. You can't have one without the other. You just mentioned guilt is I don't know if you said the opposite, but there's joy and then there can be guilt. So my question is, if I can think of how to frame it, as a therapist, when someone comes to you and they've done something that actually brought them a lot of joy, but they had guilt over it because maybe it hurt someone else, but yet they justify what they did. And I'm sure you hear a lot of justifications. What is it as humans that we should really focus on? Is it on focusing on the joy that it brings to us without worrying about how it impacts someone else? Or is it worrying about not feeling guilty enough about the joy?
Oh, you are really loaded tonight, aren't you? Whoa, that's really getting deep. We are all connected. We are really genuinely all connected. And so it's not about one person pushing down somebody else to feel something that's beneficial, to feel that joy, to feel that love. Actually, it's about the internal feeling is within us. And when we're born as babies, we all have no ego, we have no mind, we're completely pure and innocent, and we were all born like that, I absolutely promise you. But life happens, things happen, challenges happen, and then we shut off and we shut down, and the protection mechanisms and the walls come up, and that's when we're in that Darwinian stage of the survival of the fittest. And that is not how we were born to be. Everybody, it doesn't matter who they are, they will goo and gar and go smiling at a baby, a newborn baby. And that's because they are pureness and innocence. There is nothing in their way. There's no agenda. They're just pure spirit, pure beingness, and pure innocence. And we were all from that place. Life hits us, things happen. And as humans, we step into our humanness of changing and adapting to what happens. And I would say it's not okay to steal somebody's joy. You can't steal somebody's joy unless they allow you to. And this is the other part of the equation, that you can't make someone feel angry or fearful or guilty. You make you feel these things. And so then it's about taking ownership and responsibility for how you feel on a daily basis. Because if you're feeling angry, then you can actually change that feeling and change your state into feeling something different. As I said, this is very deep, Dr. JACALYN. This is very loaded, and it's a not one size fits all, because this is part of our challenge, part of our human journey.
I have to give a disclaimer, which is that we had a show before this, Creative Hearts, with Dr. Chan and our guest Claudio, and we were talking about 3D, living in a 3D world versus a 5D world. And I started having a lot of questions come up as a result, because we had a very deep conversation there as well. And what I'm wondering is, as humans, do we justify so many things that we do so that we don't actually have to deal with them? And yeah. And
yeah, we do.
Yeah.
We explain it away. Absolutely. And you'll hear it, like the explanation and the justifications and the I'm right, you're wrong, because it's uncomfortable to be wrong. And this is, if we're going to enter into that conversation, this is the 3D world, the right, wrong, the blame, shame game, sort of the one-upmanship, sort of that you get something where there's the agenda, the ego. But, sort of if we're looking at the 5D, 3D world, when you enter into 5D, and it's not that you fly off somewhere, it's actually that it's an internal journey. It's a journey where you become at peace with yourself and you become connected in a much, much deeper way to yourself and to others. And so you move into the heart. It's a heart-based experience of living. It's a place of compassion and in a peace and in a joy. And just imagine if your family were all in that place, how much different your world and your experiences would be. And there is, many people living in times of meditation and choosing a different way to live and show up and be in themselves. And then we still have to work through, and we still have to kind of climb through the financial systems, the political systems, and the systems that are in place right now of what have been in place for zillions of years. And so we have to find a place. It's an internal journey. We don't go to another place. We go inside to a place of compassion, joy, peace, because that is within us. It always has been. And when we reach that place, then there is no justification or explanation to be winning or overcoming or pushing somebody down to look good. Because actually, if we bring somebody up with us, that is the reality of living in a place of peace and compassion and joy and living from the heart place.
That is where it's at. Power pose. Yes.
Absolutely.
I'd love for you, again, in your role as a therapist, to describe to me and also to our audience, what are some behavior traits of someone who is living with their ego first, as opposed to someone living with their heart first? Leading with ego versus leading with heart.
They'll be in the mind. You'll see them straight away. They'll be thinking, analyzing, and talking through their experiences. So somebody that is working and living from the ego mind, and this is the way that the corporate structures are set up. It's a very masculine structure in terms of being in corporate. And there is this competition. And this is what puts you into the ego. So our construction of how we move through life is that somebody wins, somebody loses. And so this puts us into the mind to win because we want to win. That's kind of the way that the world and the planet and the way that companies and corporate structures are structured, that there's the people that work for people and there's the people that are managers and run the companies. And actually, what about if we don't have that, structure in place, that we were all equal? And unfortunately, the world that we're living in at this current moment isn't equal. And so there are those managers and directors and leaders, and many of them are coming from the mind. Many of them are coming from a place of needing to be right. And so you will hear it because they will almost look like they're going through the motions without the emotion. They'll be on autopilot. So they're in a doing mode rather than a being mode. There'll be a doing humanness rather than being humanness. And so it will feel for them like hard work. And if they're disconnected to their body and disconnected from their heart and in their ego, life will be very challenging for them, and they will be very stressed. They'll be very anxious because they'll be living through their mind. And we weren't born to live through our mind, but somebody that's living from the place of ego and from the place of needing to be right and getting everything done will be challenged. They will feel almost cut off from their body, that they just are on a hamster wheel and they don't know how to get off it. It's a very challenging experience. And how do I know? Because I've been one of them myself. I've had to live that world and survive it. And it has been challenging. And things in life happen that take you off that wheel and make you question. And for me, it was when my dad died. That's what made me question things, sort of, is this it? And many people get to that place, not everyone, but many people get to that place of questioning, is this what it's all about? And it's at that point that hamster wheel becomes a challenge. And then people look for another way to live and to experience life.
That was beautiful, the way you summed that up. I think it's also interesting, I'm using that word, when you encounter someone who is still on the hamster wheel, and it's obvious to see it, that they are leading with an ego. And during the pandemic, all kinds of things happened to people. People lost loved ones, they lost properties, they lost businesses. And at the same time, for some, there was a moment of reflection, of still having gratitude, of wanting to rebuild, wanting to move forward and give thanks for what they have. And then others just filled with fury and probably still are in that same space. So I hope that everyone can find a way to acknowledge where they are and envision where they could be by taking steps to do that and working with someone like you.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I also had my own anger with the fact that everything had shut down, because I'm actually a very sociable person. I like to be out there and do things. And I didn't realize how much I like to be out there and do things until I wasn't allowed to do those things anymore. And everything went into a screen. And that was very challenging for me. And it was something that I had to overcome, because I was always going out to do things, and I lost a lot of that social interaction and also that inevitability of the physical connection, living alone. Many people that are in families, they were forced to be in their families, and they had the opposite experience, that they were locked in their families and locked in the space for all of the time. And that was also stressful for them. So everybody experienced things in different ways. And it did make a lot of people question what they're doing and where they are, and whether they really wanted to stay on the hamster wheel. There was a lot of people that actually went into retirement. They didn't come back to work, which is quite powerful, because they had the time to reflect, because there was nothing else to do. There was many people in families that had a glorious time because they were with the families, and it was like a permanent holiday, and they were having a lot of fun. I saw a lot of couples, celebrating and having parties and dinners out in the garden, because it was very nice weather here at that time in the first lockdown. And so it was an experience of many different sorts. Some people lost their livelihoods, their businesses, and their relationships. Some relationships were strained and they broke up, and some relationships blossomed and bloomed. And some people survived, some people thrived, and some people didn't thrive. They really struggled in that climate. And so we have a world of experiences. No one or two people were experiencing the same, and there is still challenge for many people, and there is still radical growth for others. So that's how the world is. We're not all the same. We all do experience life in different ways. And it's about how we respond and react. It's never, never about what happens. It's about our response and reaction that creates the internal experience of what we experience.
Bravo. That's a great way for us to close out the show on this Friday night, the last day of March 2023. Can you believe it?
I know. I don't know where the months are going. They're slipping by. We're on the 1st of April tomorrow. I'm not doing very much on the 1st of April until after midday because I don't want to be nobody's fool.
Well, for all the people out there who say, okay, we've gotten this free therapy sessions from Caroline and we want to get this stress buster, we want to work with her, what's the best way to reach out and who would you like to contact you?
Well, you can reach out to me by email, and I'm on No More Stress, literally, at live.co.uk, or call if you're international +44. If you're local, 07523 120 189. And what we do is we work through what you need, so you will tell me what's causing what's going on, what's not working for you. And we plan a program together that's right for you. And there isn't any one person that's the same as somebody else. And so sometimes different people will need different things in different sessions. And so it's important to treat each single person as unique because we all are. And so whether you're suffering with physical ache and pain, mental, so depression, anxiety, stress, whether it's relationship issues, whether it's anger management, whether it's sickness, in terms of family or bereavement. So it's whatever, I always say, whatever we're complaining about and whatever is taking our joy away. Because if we are in that place of the busy mind, that is where our stress resides. And I can help each and every person move from that busy mind where the stress resides back into the heart and back into a place of experiencing from their senses, so they experience an inner world of peace.
Thank you, Caroline. I love sharing this space with you and all of the amazing value that you bring to me and to our audience. So I hope you have a beautiful rest of your weekend. And thank you, everyone, for being here. We will be back with Pet Psychic Amina. And today we are discussing how to help prevent birds from colliding with your windows. So that's an interesting topic. Yes, sure. All right. Bye, everyone. We'll see you soon. Bye, Caroline. I'll talk to you soon.